Hello everyone, my name is Alexey, and today I would like to tell you about CSS variables. CSS variables are supported by all modern browsers, and I noticed that unfortunately not all developers know about them, confusing them with SCSS variables. However, it's really different type of variables. At least CSS variables, for example, exist in a runtime, etc. So many developers don't understand the power of CSS variables, and today I will help you unlock the best approach to dealing with design tokens and variables in CSS, and for experienced developers, refresh their knowledge. So let's start. Okay, let's talk a bit about preparation. So I've created HTML file in which I included index.css file. For now it's empty CSS file. Also index.js file in the end of body tag. Also for now it's empty JS file, and here we have main block and section in which we will experiment with our CSS variables. So let's start and get acquainted with CSS variables. Amazing, let's create our first variable, and for creating variables for the whole scope of the page, you need to use pseudoclass root. And here you need to declare variable, and by standard all custom variables are starting with 2 dashes, and then you can use kebab case, for example, my variable, and for example it will be color blue. So what is the pseudoclass root? So the root pseudoclass matches the root element of a tree representing the document. In HTML, root represents the HTML element and is identical to the selector HTML, except that its specificity is higher. So if you will write something for HTML and then for root, root will override it. But it's common approach to declare variable in root. So we've created our first variable, and let's try to use it. Nice, and let's use our CSS variables with our HTML markup, and we have here text block, and let's try to use our CSS variables. And the first thing I need to do is do main and right here text align center for centering our text. And here, as we can see, we have class text block. Let's write it. And here we can write a color, for example, for our text. And for color, yeah. And for getting value of CSS variable, we need to use var function, and here we need to pass our variable. And as we can see, especially for IDE, we see which color is it, and I think it's pretty amazing. And as we can see, yes, our color was changed, and it's how we can use it in our CSS code. Then let's talk about scoping of CSS variable, and let's create other text blocks. For example, it will be other divs, and it will be some text 1, some text 2, and some text 3. And here will be text block primary. It will be text block green, and here will be text block red, for example. And we can move to our CSS file and rename our variable to primary color. And we can pass it here. Also change our class to text block primary. And we have here blue block. And for example, we need to have some text 2 and some text 3 with corresponding colors, and we can write this code. So we can add our text block green to CSS file, and we can reassign our primary color. Primary color for green block, it will be green. And we can also use a color. We can also use color, and also we can write primary color. And as we can see, second block became green. And as you can think, we can also do with red block. So text block red, we can reassign also our primary color to, for example, red, and our text block will be red. And it's another cool feature of CSS variables. Nice. And let me show you another cool features. And as you can see, it's our HTML page. And here I moved my DevTools. And for example, I want to have a common margin unit for my blocks in my applications. And it could be margin unit, and it could be 8 pixels. Cool. And for example, I want to have in text block primary margin, and it will be var our margin unit. Cool. Our margin unit, and as we can see, we have for our sum text 1 8 pixels margin. And for example, for text block green and text block red, I want to have margin unit multiplied by 2, and I can do it. For example, I can write margin here, but I can wrap it in calc function, and I can just multiply it by 2. And as we can see, sum text 2 will have 16 pixels. And as you can think, if I want to divide by 2, I also can do it. And for sum text 3, I will have, I will have only 4 pixels margins. And all common mathematical operations are supported. It's subtraction, division, multiplying, etc. So you also can use it with calc function. Amazing. And another cool thing that we can create new CSS variables on the base of previous CSS variables. And for example, we can create here, for example, big margin unit, and it could be calc, and I want to have var margin unit, so 8 pixels, and plus var margin unit divided by 2, and also semicolon here. And let's try to use our big margin unit. Cool. And as we can see, we want to have on sum text 1 12 pixels margin, and yes, we can see 12 pixels margin, because margin unit 8 plus 8 divided by 2, it will be 4, and 8 plus 4, it will be 12. And how we can combine our CSS variables and count new values on its base. And now I want to show you how to deal with CSS variables in JavaScript, and how you can change variables, CSS variables inside JavaScript. And for this, I want to build a draggable rectangle. So let's comment this text, and I want to add a div. It will be empty div with class rectangle. Cool. And for CSS perspective, it will be default rectangle. So let's add styles for it, and it will be width 15 pixels, height also 50 pixels. Position will be absolute, and let's add top and left position for this rectangle. Let's add for example X, and it will be 3 pixels, and let's add Y, it will be 3 pixels. And here we need just add left var X and top Y. Cool. And as we can see, we need to see our rectangle. We need to see our rectangle, and let's try to figure out what's going on. And yes, we need to add a color for it. So for example, background. So background will be var primary color. Let's add primary color. Nice. And as we can see, we have here our blue rectangle, and we want to drag it via our mouse cursor, but we can't do it for now. And how we can achieve it? Through JavaScript. So let's open our index.js file, and here we need to define a root, because these variables are now in root. So const root, it will be document element. Pretty easy. And here if we want to drag it with the mouse, we need to add event listener to our root. So root add event listener, and it will be mouse move. And here will be callback function, and here we will have an event. And let's try to see what we will have here. So console log dot event, and as we can see in our console, we have mouse event here, and we have here client X and client Y. Nice. And let's use these properties. For setting CSS variables, we can use root style, and method set property. Cool. First argument will be our X, and the second variable will be amount of pixels, which we can set instead of X. And how we can achieve it? We can write backticks, and here we need to write our event client X and add pixels. Cool. And the same thing we can do with Y. So we can write Y here and client Y, client Y. Nice. And now all should work. And let's try to experiment. Yes, amazing. And as we can see, we can drag this rectangle using our mouse. And it's pretty amazing because in JavaScript code we just changing variables, and these variables is applying to left and top CSS properties, and we can drag our rectangle through the page. You can also experiment and write your own tricky thing with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and create beautiful and attractive websites. And the last thing I want to show you, it's how we can get variables, CSS variables from JavaScript. So let's create a div with ID equals to color display, and here we would like to display primary color of our page, for example, from this variable. So primary color of the page, and here we need to display something. So let's create our JavaScript code, and we can start with defining the root. So root equals to document element, pretty easy. And here we need to get our div. So let's copy our ID. So const color display equals to document get element by ID, and here we need to pass as a string our ID. Cool. And then we need somehow to get a variable from our root, and it's pretty easy. So const current page primary color equals to get computed style. It's like native function, get computed style, and here we need provide our element. So for our situation it's root, and here we just need to get property. So get property value, and in get property value we need to provide our variable, CSS variable, so it will be primary color. Okay, and we just need to display it on our page. So const current color element equals to document create element, it will be div, for example, and our current color element inner HTML equals to our current color. So let's pass our current page primary color here, and let's just color display, just append our current color element. Cool. And as we can see on our page, primary color of the page blue, and all CSS variables, we can get all CSS variables with get computed style and get property value, and all CSS variables will be returned as a string. So we can log type of current page primary color and save it, and as we can see it's string. And if we will need to display, for example, x and provide x here, it will be also string, and if it will be just number, it will be also string. So it's okay. And that's how we can get CSS variables from JavaScript. Great, that's all I would like to tell you about CSS variables. As we have seen, they are amazingly simple and make our life with styles so much better. We can perform mathematical operations with CSS variables, calculate something using JavaScript, and pass it directly to styles, and just make our life more convenient by moving common design tokens into these same variables. I hope you discovered something interesting for yourself. And after this video, you will use variables in CSS more effectively and actively, and not use preprocessor for this task. So native variables are many times better, as you have seen. So please like, subscribe, stay tuned. Please go into description and follow my Telegram channel. Bye.